No, you don't need the.
I'm doing this my way. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items.
What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and in today's video, we have a 4-game slate in the LPL and the LCK, 2 matches in each. There are no prize picks up right now, and I need to make this video now, so sorry for that. But we can talk a little bit about the contest that will be on DraftKings tomorrow and just about the way that I look at these matchups in general. There are some surprises to me with the slate for tomorrow from a pricing perspective, and the reason it's surprising is because the odds came out and they were not what I anticipated. So in the first match of the day, we have GenG against T1. GenG are currently the favorites, which I think is pretty surprising. In the top lane, we have Doran against Zeus. I think that I thought that public perception would say Zeus is the better player, so that it would give T1 an advantage. In the jungle, we have Peanut against Owner. I would assume that the public in general thinks that Owner is a better jungler than Peanut. In the mid lane, we have Chovy against Faker. I think Chovy is generally preferred, although everybody agrees that Faker is one of, if not the best player of all time. And then we have Ruler and Lehens against Gumayusi and Keria. And people know that Ruler is great. Everybody thinks that Gumayusi is going to be just as good, if not better. And then almost everybody thinks Keria is the best support in the world. So it's obviously a close matchup. And if the line was reversed and it was T1 minus 150 or like minus 120 and then GenG plus 110, I'd probably be saying, you know, GenG has a really good chance to win this match, and I would like them getting the plus money. So this is like 30 points off in my mind, because I think that T1 should be listed as the favorite and GenG should be listed as the underdog. It's a decent value spot, I think, betting on T1, and that's the first leg of a four game parlay that I'm gonna play tomorrow. I'm not putting a ton of money on it, but it's like plus 1100 when I looked at it. For DraftKings, I think T1 is a great option. I think it'll be a very popular option. I'm a little concerned that the match could be very slow, but I can't avoid playing T1 when they're underdogs, just because you get a couple of good combinations. There are some qualifiers tonight that I'm going to try to play in as well, or just the one, the $35 one. So in that match, I think that the T1 side is the better side. I prefer the T1 side. You're getting all the additional value. Sign me up for T1. I'm playing some lineups with Gumayusi as the captain, and I think that I might have one with Owner as the captain. I'm playing a little bit more in the $15 contest than I normally do because I like the slate. I think there's some interesting decisions to make. Second match, we have OMG against World Elite, and I'll just do this one on Twitter. So we have Biu, Beishang, Shanks, SMLZ, and Heal against Shanji, Aki, Cream, Abel, and Cold. If you put this line out before the season started, it would have been probably like high minus 100, high 170-ish for OMG. For me, I think the line is like minus 230, which is a decent amount. The reason I think that is because World Elite hasn't played well this split, but they have been relatively competitive, like in their matches, and bloody, which is normally a good thing, for DraftKings scoring and stuff like that. I think Biu is a good but not great top laner. Beishang is a very good jungler. Shanks played okay last split. I don't think that they're as good as Cream by any stretch of the imagination, but it is what it is. And then we have SMLZ and Heal. Going before this split started, if you said you'd prefer to have SMLZ on your team instead of Abel because you think he might be more consistent or less variant or something like that, I think a lot of people would agree with you. I don't like SMLZ personally. Well, not personally. I don't like SMLZ or rostering him for DraftKings or anything like that. I don't think he's a big difference maker. I wouldn't want him on my team. I'm just a little surprised that the number is that big. With that being said, I am playing the OMG side. I think OMG is the first or second best option on DraftKings tonight. I think that you should be betting the overs on prize picks on the OMG players as long as the numbers are somewhat reasonable. They probably won't be reasonable because they know it's a good spot for them and in a potentially bloody matchup. So I'm including OMG in the second portion of that parlay that I mentioned earlier. The third match, this is another one that kind of surprised me. I know that KT, I think, has done a little better than Kwangdong so far this split, but Kwangdong did beat T1. So you got to put some additional weight on that. In the top lane, Rascal against Keen, both very good top laners. Well, both good top laners. Keen is potentially very good and is, highly regarded in Korea, so I think you could give a slight edge to Keen. Cuz against Elim, they're both former T1 junglers. I don't think there's a huge difference between the two, so I'm just saying that one's even. Vikla against Fate. I think most people agree that Fate is better. Vikla played well in their last match, I believe, against Nongshim. That was a good contested match. I was on the Nongshim side there as well, so that didn't work out. And then we have Aiming and Life against Teddy and Hoyt, and that's a complete toss-up. Teddy's still a very good AD carry. So with that being said, I'm taking Kwangdong for the parlay. I'm not getting much of this match into my main exposure for tournaments. I think I might have a small stack of Kwangdong in one of my $15 entries, but that's about it. And that just happens because, it seems closer to a 50-50. The first game, GenG against T1, seems like a 50-50. Kwangdong against KT seems like a 50-50. And then our last match, LNG against JDG, seems close to a 50-50 to me as well. And it's not really listed as a 50-50. So LNG is listed as the underdog. Before the split started, I think that most people had LNG as a better rated team than JDG. I know that I did. And I have a ton of respect for JDG. JDG was up there as well. They were definitely in the top 10 in the world before the split started. Let me see if I have it open. Yeah, before the season started, I had LNG as my third overall team and JDG as my eighth overall team, just purely from talent alone. So let's talk about why I think that. So Ale against 369, they are very similar. I prefer the Ale side of this matchup at this point. I think that there's a value opportunity here. He is and has been good in matchups against 369, I believe, in the past. That's part of the reason why 369 was, I think, removed from top esports, because he wasn't consistent enough, and players like Ale, who didn't have a big, following behind them at that point, it was a little surprising to see top esports' top laner lose so hard. Then in the jungle, we have Tarzan against Kanavi. They're two of the best junglers in the world. I think that I prefer Kanavi, but they're both extremely good junglers. And, for DraftKings, I do want exposure to both of them as my captain. I'm not going to lean one way or the other in the jungle. Doinb against Yagao. Doinb is definitely a better player than Yagao, but it all comes down to the draft. If JDG can consistently get Yagao onto good champions in matchups against Doinb, or force Doinb to play more of a if Doinb's playing a control mage or a do nothing champion instead of an engaged champion or something that can allow him to carry the game, then it takes away a lot of the strength of LNG. I think LNG will be at their best when Doinb has huge flexibility in the drafts, is allowed to use his flexibility in the draft to get into the perfect spot to carry a game. But LNG hasn't been doing that as much recently. I think LNG has been disappointing so far this season, but they're still, I think, 5-2, which is very good. And then in the bot lane, we have Light and Elwandi or Iwandi. I think it is Iwandi now. At least that's what the code in DraftKings says. And then we have Hope and Missing. I think at this point, I have a slight lean towards Hope and Missing. I think that Hope is a little better than Light, and I think that Missing's a little better than Iwandi, at least from a form perspective. I'm not saying that Hope is much better than Light. I might say Missing is much better than Iwandi, but I'm not totally convinced yet. Missing has been somewhat fortunate with having good lane partners for the past couple of years. He was playing with Elk/Xiaomeng and now Hope, so he has solid AD carries to play with. It does bolster, people's opinions of him because he's not needing to like hard carry the lane or something like that. I don't think he's a huge difference maker against the better supports in the LPL, but against somebody like Iwandi, I think he could carve out a decent advantage in the bot lane. So like I said before, that's basically it. I'm playing a lot of LNG. I'm playing a lot of JDG. I'm playing T1. I don't think I have much GenG, if any, and then I have a decent amount of OMG, and I have some exposure to Kwangdong, and then I have a 4-leg parlay of T1, OMG, Kwangdong, and LNG, and I think it's like plus 1100, which is shocking. It's a shocking number in my opinion. So I threw like $10 on it or something to win 90 or 100, and that's it. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.